Welcome to Focus Magazine. We are international students from FH Wien University of Management and Communication. Today we will talk about energy and sustainability. The Renewable Energy Expansion Acceleration Act, with its numerous procedural simplifications, is intended to serve as a turbocharger for the energy transition. But which renewable energies are important for electricity generation? The next clip shows the current status in Austria. Austria has set itself the goal of covering 100% of its total electricity consumption with renewable energy sources by 2030. This requires a reduction in fossil fuels and a greater reliance on renewable energy. Fortunately, more and more electricity is being produced from renewable sources. But which methods are primarily used for this in Austria?
When we look at the electricity system, hydropower is Austria's most important energy source, contributing over 60% or around 60% of renewable electricity. Photovoltaics and wind power are the technologies that are growing rapidly. Photovoltaics ranks third in the electricity system. Approximately 10% of electricity now comes from photovoltaics. And as I said, this is the sector that has grown the most in recent years.
And the electricity grids are being expanded too, which is important. More and more households are producing their own electricity, for example with photovoltaic systems. However, especially in summer at midday, when many households in a certain area are generating electricity, there is a risk of grid overload. Measures are needed to prevent this.
I believe there are two approaches that are very helpful right now. One is the massive expansion of home storage systems, meaning small, relatively small electrochemical storage units that can simply dissipate the midday heat. Since household consumption increases again in the evening anyway, this shifts the midday photovoltaic system's midday generation into the evening. And the second measure is the temporary shutdown of decentralized generation plants. In such cases, the distribution network operator will have the option, or can take advantage of the opportunity, to disconnect or shut down very difficult, even extremely difficult times, such as midday, peak generation, and potentially additional winter-related power plants, thus preventing grid overload.
However, problems can also arise the other way around. Namely, when it's in winter, there is no sun or wind.
I actually see this as the greater challenge because these midday peaks in summer, which we already experience on sunny days, are always relatively short-term shifts that are necessary. When we talk about the dark doldrums in winter, we're talking about significantly longer periods. We may have poor or no photovoltaic generation for an entire week, and we're already in a time in winter when photovoltaics deliver less energy, meaning less can be fed into storage systems. This means that covering these dark doldrums will require other storage technologies for the foreseeable future. Gas-fired power plants will also be needed for a long time to stabilize and generate the necessary power during these periods of low solar output, or, if available, electricity imports from other countries.
Despite the obstacles, Christoph Schmiedl is optimistic about Austria's goal of covering its electricity needs with renewable energies by 2030.
I believe we're on a very good path with the electricity system. I now believe it's feasible, and still is. I do think it will be a huge challenge in the coming years. We especially need to pick up the pace in the area of wind power. But I believe we can achieve our target. Really, by 2030, covering 100% of Austria's electricity needs with renewable energy to reach that goal.
As Vienna continues to grow, questions about the future of mobility are becoming increasingly important. How will people get around in the years ahead? And how can the city make transportation more sustainable? From public transport and cycling to the role of cars, Vienna is exploring different paths forward. My colleague Ella Schwärzel researched on this topic.
Vienna has a widely expanded infrastructure and public transport. The city, therefore, is a model city in European and international comparison. Vienna comes right after London in a Time Out ranking from last year where they ranked the public transport. Right after Vienna also comes Zurich and Brighton. Vienna has already a really high level of public transport, but still want to be even more sustainable, also because of the Paris Climate Agreement. Vienna wants to be climate neutral at 2040. With the so-called Vienna Plan, they describe the next steps concerning mobility in Vienna. Gregor Stratil-Sauer does mobility strategies for the city of Vienna and was therefore part of the planning process. He says there's still a lot to do.
Aber wir haben jetzt ein recht gutes Grundnetz und
We now have a good basic transport network. With the major construction project, the large interchange involving the U2 and U5 lines, and the central extensions, we are currently expanding the underground network extensively in the city center once again. At the same time, the rapid transit network, which has been relatively well developed in Vienna since the 1960s, gets renovated massively. By 2035, we should then have a very well-developed public transport network, which will be of an even higher standard than what we have now.
Netz haben, also das eigentlich noch von der Qualität über dem ist, was wir jetzt haben.
The regional traffic network, Wiener Linien, also use electronic mobility for most of the trams, suburban trains and e-buses, which makes a lot of decarbonization possible. The U2, for example, already uses electronic door opening at some of their stations, which can create more safety for people and reliability. And in Seestadt in Vienna, there was an experiment 5 years ago for using self-driving buses. But there's even more to consider to be more sustainable in the next years.
Wir haben in Wien eben also dieses Ziel noch.
In Vienna, our aim is precisely to promote environmentally friendly transport more, and, of course, in general, to reduce car traffic as a result. We intend to continue doing so in the coming years. A major focus in recent years has been on further expanding the cycle path network because Vienna isn't exactly a model city in this case. But unfortunately, this is common for many cities that have very good public transport. We still have gaps in the cycle path network that we need to close. Unfortunately, you still can't get everywhere in Vienna safely, quickly, and as easily as by car, so there is certainly still work to do, and we are working hard on it.
Zu tun und da sind wir auch eben intensiv dran.
Cars won't be banned in the future of Vienna, but of course there will be less space for them. But that's also what the inhabitants in Vienna wish for. Every 5 years there's a survey about the living in Vienna, where people also can say what they would like to improve or change in the city. And 87% of the people in Vienna already think that you can go around really good without using the car.
Eigentlich ist das halt so eine Superpower von Wien.
Actually, I would say that's one of Vienna's superpowers. The fact that we have such a compact structure, where distances are short, where you can really walk to school, go shopping, and get a lot of things done in the local area. We're also trying to successfully implement this in our urban development areas.
Relativ erfolgreich auch umzusetzen.
The minimization of parking opportunities in the city can also create more space for greener areas, which can make the city more beautiful and attractive. The city is already developing and renewing their public transport so people can enjoy their time in the city even more.
Historically, Austria received most of its gas from Russia. Following the war between Russia and Ukraine, Austria's strategy of gas imports changed, and so did its path towards sustainability. With more on the subject, we'll see a clip by my colleague Keteva Panovi.
When Russian troops invaded Ukraine, Europe was thrown off balance for various reasons. One of them was dependence on Russian gas. Many countries, especially those like Austria, had to take action quickly to reduce this dependence on Russia. To talk about this subject, we have Klaus Jenny, a policy officer of electricity and gas markets.
I think it was the 22nd of February 2022. Yeah? Suddenly there was war. Yeah? The first thing I noticed, we were all very surprised. That was the one point. And the second point was that nobody knew if those gas flows from Russia via Ukraine would continue. So there was a lot of uncertainty here. After some time, we noticed that these flows did continue, and we were very relieved, because special situation of Austria, almost 80% of Austria's gas came from Russia, so we were very much dependent on that gas. It was end of November, beginning of December 2024. Yeah? Only then there was an arbitrage judgment against Gazprom, and the reaction was that Gazprom stopped its gas deliveries to OMV, which is our gas importer, And then we also were very uncertain whether these gas flows could be replaced by flows from other countries. And surprisingly, it was possible. And our gas companies, gas suppliers managed to get gas from Germany and from Italy, and what is also very important for Austria, gas from gas storage sites.
Klaus also adds that while the war and the new gas import strategies brought many difficulties, there were many new benefits for Austria and its path towards sustainability.
One activity set by the former minister in charge of energy was also to motivate citizens to consume less gas, yeah, and to some extent this was also successful because from 2022 until now, gas consumption has significantly gone down compared to the years before. So that a significant effect is. I hope this will last. Yeah. And another effect is that many households in Austria have opted away from gas and have chosen another energy carrier for their homes. Yeah, so for cooking, electricity instead of gas, and for heating, let's say wood pellets, also small pieces of wood. And the number of households who have opted out of gas since 2022 is, I think it's 105,000, and that's quite a considerable sum.
Klaus Jenny wishes that Austria also had its own gas resources, as much as, for example, the United States. However, even though Austria will always be exposed to gas world market, it definitely has invested a lot in strategy changes and sustainability.
This was our Focus magazine about energy and sustainability. Thank you for watching, and until next time at Focus Magazine.